A very good morning, everyone. Thank you for focusing on discussing the requirements. The main aim of the event is to amplify the above matter, which is submitting the beneficiaries' owners information for NGOs and guide the NGOs on how to comply with the new amendment. The law, the Companies Act amended 2022 and the Partnership Act amended 2022. This is in reference to the circular that was disseminated earlier this year on 11th January 2023 by URSB, requiring all companies to comply with the new amendment within the next 30 days from 11th January. Welcome to the platform. This is the time that we usually engage our regulators. And for the next 2 hours, that's what we're going to do. My name is Hilda Chiro. I work with the Defenders Protection Initiative as the program's executive, and I'll be moderating the event of today. Thank you for tuning in into this webinar. It's always a privilege to have you on board with us. As DPI, we commit that we shall always bring you this service of Talk to Your Regulator that aims at enhancing regulatory excellence and operational efficiency. Today, we'll be joined by Mr. Stephen Okello, the Executive Director at the National Bureau of Non-Government Organizations, Ms. Rachel Kamsime, a Registration Officer at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Mr. Peter Magela, the Executive Director of the NEVA, and Mr. Yona Wanjala, our team leader at DPI. It will be an interactive session. Please feel free to use the chat rooms, talk to us, ask those questions. Raise up your hand if you want to talk. And the agenda is as simple as this. We're going to have welcome remarks from Mr. Yona Wanjala. And then after that, Mr. Yona will welcome the Executive Director of NGO Bureau to give us a speech and remarks. And then we'll have regulatory remarks from Ms. Rachel Kamsime, who will brief us on beneficial ownership. Why do NGOs need to register with beneficial owners? To register beneficial owners, the requirement to submit beneficial owners information by the NGOs. And then we'll open up the floor for discussion where we'll be interacting with our regulators. Both parties will raise their concerns and will respond to each other. And then we'll have Mr. Peter Magela come in to give some highlights on the identified areas of concern on the requirements to submit beneficial owners information by NGOs. And then we'll close the webinar. Thank you once again. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'll take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Yona Wanjala to give us opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone on this platform. Allow me formally welcome you on behalf of Defenders Protection Initiative and on behalf of all collaborators on this Talk to Your Regulator initiative. Like Hilda has rightly said, that this is basically a dialogue space where NGOs talk to their regulators, where NGOs raise concerns, where NGOs seek clarification on issues of compliance. The issue of compliance sometimes can be perceived as paper-heavy manuals, burdensome processes in line with the compliance obligation. However, without regulation, it might be hard for certain institutions to offer an oversight, to play an oversight role in line with the compliance. For Uganda in particular, the NGO sector perceive including DPI, that maybe it is weighing heavily on us to comply to different regulators in line with the laws that govern the sector or within which the NGO sector operates. At this point in time, we thought that we could not rely on our own expertise. We needed to listen to the key regulator in this topic in particular for beneficial owner, which is an institution where all of us are birthed, that is the Uganda Registration Service Bureau, which is happily or has happily joined us to, one, take us through the compliance tool, key highlights, what are the cost implications related to it, what are the penalties that come along with any breach in line with the regulatory or the compliance obligation. While the URSB is the center of focus, we found or we deemed it fit to have again what I would call our mother or father institution, that is the NGO Bureau, with whom we've collaborated in this Talk to Your Regulator series. This is, I think, the third series of virtual meetings we've had. We had the data protection, I think early January. We've had the Financial Intelligence Authority on one of the regulatory, again, obligation of the anti-money laundering compliance template report for the designated non-business professions and the NGO sector. And now here we are with, again, the beneficial ownership. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the collaborators, QAM, DENIVA, URSB, and of course, our father and mother institution, which is the NGO Bureau. We are blessed to always call upon Stephen Okello, and he has never turned us down on issues of compliance. I know he has a busy schedule, and Stephen, today the day is not specific on your focus, but greeting the sector, I think, will play a very good role, and maybe giving some insights of why is it necessary that the sector complies with the URSB. I don't want to take a lot of time. Participants have a lot of questions. Of course, this is building on one of the engagements that DENIVA had organized, I think a week ago. And we thought that perhaps we would call the regulators. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Stephen Okello to speak to the sector. Thank you, and over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Yona, and thanks to everyone. I want to first of all say all protocol observed, because I see there are 52 people present in this meeting, and I may not go through all of them, but good morning to everyone and in all your different capacities. I want to start by thanking the organizers. Just as Yona said, this is their third session of organizing this Talk to Your Regulator. And it has been a very good and beneficial exercise, not only to the NGO sector, but also to all the government entities involved. And also, I want to take this opportunity to thank his team too, because Yona does not do this alone. The entire Defenders Protection Initiative for all that they have done to always pull off this. But also I want to thank DENIVA and also the QAM, because QAM is also an arm within them for also being a part of this. And I'm also glad to see the way you always identify different key people in the sector to partner with. The first time I saw NGO Forum, now I'm seeing DENIVA, and I think this is a good thing for us all. But also I want to thank my colleague Rachel from URSB. Rachel, thank you so much for sparing time. Just as Yona said, today is not my day, today is your day. So for me, mine, as someone from the NGO Regulator, it's key that I'm part of this event so that everything goes on clearly. But I want to thank all the participants who are present, who have taken time to put aside anything they're actually doing today to be part of this. because I'm aware that this is very important to them, and that's why they're giving it this priority. Now, going into the subject matter for today, all of you are aware that URSB issued a circular on the 11th of January, giving a 30 days notice to all the companies and the limited liability partnerships to file information on their beneficial owners. And of course, that was arising from the Companies Amendment Act of 2022, and also the Partnership Amendment Act of 2022, and also the regulations of both that came out this year. And since then, of course, a number of questions have arisen, and I want to thank you, URSB, for coming out to build the capacity of the sector. But of course, as a key stakeholder to URSB, the NGO Bureau on the 23rd of January also came out and issued another circular calling upon everyone in the sector to ensure that they comply with the 30 days notice, which we're sure sometime next week on the 11th it will be expiring, and therefore and thereafter you're all aware that URSB has clearly indicated they won't serve anyone who has not complied. The NGO Bureau has also indicated so, and so that means that it's important that all of you comply. And since then, a number of questions have arisen, which are very good questions. I've also received a number of them, and so many engagements have been held. I've seen a number of them going on. So I want to really thank the organizers for giving this opportunity to all the participants to ask any question that they actually have in relation to this. Now, the big question is, why are NGOs being dragged into this? Now, I will leave the details to be handled by Rachel. But of course, all of you are aware that all NGOs in this country must have 3 documents. The first one is you should be incorporated. You must have a certificate of incorporation, meaning you must be a body corporate. Then the other one, you must be having a certificate of registration, showing that you appear on the register of NGOs in this country. And thirdly, you must be having a valid permit. Now, the reason why NGOs are being dragged into this is because the law requires that all of them must be incorporated. I've done more reading on issues to do with beneficial ownership. You'll find that the main focus here is on the issue of control and the issue of ownership. And when it comes to the sector, the fact that you're incorporated, then you cannot be left out of it. So that means that all the different types of NGOs that are incorporated in this country must be a part of it. We have the indigenous, we have the partner states within East Africa, we have continental coming from any part of Africa other than the East African partner states. We have international coming from out of Africa. Then we have the foreign NGOs. Now, all these, the fact that incorporation is a requirement, you are all supposed to ensure that you are filing that information. Now, the only ones who are exempted under this are the CBOs. The fact that CBOs are not incorporated, then they do not require this information. So this is something which, for me, my role today is to call upon the sector that please comply. This is a thing that is arising out of a law of the country. It's not something which the URSB just woke up today and said, you people submit this. And of course, it's not for only the NGO sector. I think we need to get that clearly. The beneficial ownership information is to different actors. So the actors are not only about the NGO sector, meaning that companies and the partnerships and the limited liability companies we have out there are not only about the NGO sector. So no one in the sector should feel, I think, this is too much on the sector. So my overall request is that please comply. And of course, the importance of this engagement is that as we engage and discuss this, it also helps us to want to respond to the areas of concern that are not clear. It also helps us to build your capacity, but also it helps us identify areas which maybe we would not have thought of that are coming up as a result of this new law and its regulations. And that means that it then gives the NGO Bureau and URSB room to sit down and have a discussion on all these questions that may not fully be addressed here. So I would also request my colleague Rachel that as you take the team through, if there are areas you feel like parking, you clearly indicate to the team that this one we have to park, so that URSB and the NGO Bureau sit down and agree on this, then give you a clear position on this, because once a new law has come into place, then you do not know areas that may arise that no one had thought of earlier. So I think for me on my side, I think that is all that I wanted to indicate, because as Yona said, today is not my day, it is Rachel's day. And I'm sure you're all dying to listen to Rachel. So of course, I do not know and whether there's anyone who feels there's any question outside what Rachel may say that is in relation to this that I may have to answer before I leave. But if there's none along the way, I may cross into other meetings, but as per now, I'll sit in for at least a short while and listen in more as this goes on. So I do not know whether Yona expects me to say this is officially open, or my talking has officially opened it already. So actually, I want to thank all of you. Okay, with those remarks from me, I hereby officially declare this space and event open, so that you can have all these engagements. And once again, thank the organizers, the Defenders Protection Initiative, the NIVA, Quam, then also URSB for all being a part of this. I will be in for a while. If there's anything that needs me, I can be dragged in. So Yona, back to you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Stephen, for doing the meeting justice and officially opening it. I don't want to take a lot of time. I hand it over to Hilda to invite Rachel. Over to you, Hilda.
Thank you, Yona. This is the time we've all been waiting for. And I'll take this opportunity to invite Rachel to take on the floor and tell us more about beneficial owners.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you so much. Defenders Protection Initiative for yet another engagement with this team. It's very important for you to keep your participants abreast with the recent developments of URSB. And I believe this is the best timing. It's better sometimes to attack something when it's still very, very raw. And this is the best timing now that URSB passed that insight on 11th January. It's important that everybody keeps abreast with the recent trends so that you're not caught offside the law. Because after the 30 days, the indication showed that some companies will be either deregistered, or participants or the subscribers will be invited in to show cause why they did not file their beneficial ownership. So all protocol observed. Thank you so much for yet this another engagement. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Okello, even for the good relationship we have with the NGO Bureau. And I believe a few highlights will also show that the NGO Bureau is really keeping up with the trends with now that we have a liaison officer with URSB. I believe that our relationship is at par. And we are going to make sure that a few things are highlighted in case of any new developments. And I would like to delve into my discussion today so that everybody knows, because it's really new waters. Everybody is wondering what are beneficial ownership forms, who are the beneficial ownership. Who are the beneficial owners of the company? Who are they? How do we file? Where do we submit the forms? Are they payable or not? So these are the few things I'm going to highlight: the background, why it came up, and the rationale, the motive, where we benchmarked from, and exactly when it's going to be formalized and where the forms are supposed to be submitted. So allow me share my PowerPoint to give a brief insight on why we are supposed to file beneficial owners. Are we able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, Rachel.
Okay. For better concentration, please allow me remove the video so that I can delve into the discussion, if that is okay with you people. Can I proceed?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
proceed.
Okay, I'm called Rachel Kamsime, a registration officer from the Business Directorate. And of course, I'm from Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Uganda Registration Services Bureau is a semi-autonomous statutory body which was established in 1998 by Cap 210 of the laws of Uganda, and were created to take over the functions of the Registrar General's Office under the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. So in July 2010, it was granted self-autonomy, and we are governed by a board of directors and a CEO who acts as the Registrar General. And the services we offer are business registration, and we have the companies limited by guarantee, where the NGOs fall, who are our participants today. And we also have companies which are private. These are the companies that have share capital and have what we call shareholders. We also offer what we call intellectual property, and under our intellectual property arm, we do register copyrights, we do register trademarks, we do register industrial designs, and many others. So in case some of you have intellectual property rights that you want to be registered under URSB, this avenue can also be explored under our intellectual property arm. We also do officiate marriages under our civil registration arm, where couples can walk in and notify the registrar of marriages. And if they are gazetted after 21 days, they are able to be officiated in marriage under the registrar of civil marriage. If in case they want to wed outside the premises of the church, they can gazette off a place or license it, and we issue these licenses so that you can hold your marriage either at the beach or any getaway place. We also do have a collateral registry. We oversee this registry where immovable property like receivables, like checks, we also, immovable properties also can indicate trademarks. Here they can be registered and obtain a loan facility using these immovable properties. What we oversee is the guarantor and the guarantee to see that they pay up the loan. So we obtain that, we have a mandate of overseeing that registry, and it is also part of our mandate. We also have the official receiver under insolvency matters, where we make sure that companies that are struggling obtain a soft landing. We do offer advice on how a company can keep afloat in case it's struggling. So therefore, URSB maintains a register of the data and records all registrations that are effected. So you can imagine we have a mandate of overseeing all these registers. So URSB has a big job to task ahead of it to make sure that it obtains and maintains that register. And right now I'm going to delve into our discussion for the day. Why beneficial ownership forms? On 21st February 2020, we noticed that the Financial Action Task Force, I'll be referring it to as FATF, it placed Uganda on its global money laundering watch list under the category of countries under increased monitoring. This is the list often externally referred to as the gray list. So you notice that we were cited out as one of the countries that are siphoning money either through the legal persons, that is our companies that are limited by guarantee, or companies limited by shares. Many people were, of course, siphoning money to finance terrorism, to finance different activities, and therefore, this Financial Action Task Force was able to highlight Uganda as one of those countries on the gray list. So we are on their watch list. And therefore, they mandated us under recommendation 24 of the FATF. It requires all countries to take measures aimed at preventing misuse of legal persons for money laundering and terrorism financing. So therefore, if we do not go ahead and make sure that we sensitize people about filing the beneficial ownership, we are going to be highlighted under the red list. And that means that somebody will not be able to go out with money when they are going out for trade at the airport. Uganda will be put on the gray list. You will not be able to bring in money using your company, or you will not be able to get that financing from your donors. If at all, you don't make sure that your mandate is transparent. You do not give us the information of who your real beneficial owners, who the ultimate owners of the companies are. Recommendation also under the anti-money laundering, this is AMRA 2013 and 2017 as amended, and Regulation 11 of the Anti-Money Laundering Regulations 2015. The Registrar of Companies is one of the accountable persons and is charged with the responsibility of identifying, obtaining, and keeping a record of the beneficial owners of the different legal persons. So because of that highlight, because of that background, Uganda, under the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, was tasked to collect information of who the beneficial owners, who the real owners of those companies are, to avoid any lucrative business, to avoid any obvious siphoning of money through those companies. In order to fulfill the obligations of the Register of Companies, URSB has undertaken appropriate measures, both administrative and legal. And as URSB, since we are tasked with that mandate of collecting information of who the owners of the companies are, we are therefore able to carry out the following mandate through the different formats I'm going to show you. But before URSB was tasked with that mandate, Uganda as a whole, through the Parliament of Uganda on the 30th of August 2022, passed the Companies Amendment Bill of 2022 to streamline and simplify the procedure of incorporation and also introduce the beneficial ownership. So we are not acting in a vacuum. As you can see, the Parliament of Uganda went ahead because it is a national mandate. It is a national area of importance to know which people are siphoning in money, to know who the real owners of the companies are. So it introduced the principle of beneficial ownership. And the bills went ahead to be assented by the President of Uganda on 7th September 2022. So you can see even the President is aware of this development, and the amended acts are cited as the Companies Amendment Act of 2022, Act 16, and the Partnership Amendment Act of 2022, Act 21. So these are awaiting to be gazetted. And these legal reforms accommodate the definition of who the beneficial ownership is. And the definition provides that all companies must keep a register of beneficial owners And these include all information prescribed in the regulations relating to beneficial ownership. The details of the role of the company, of role of the Register of Companies as an accountable person, and it provides for offenses and sanctions for defaulting entities. The regulations to operationalize the beneficial provisions and forms. So you notice the new company amendment provides for this form, which includes all the prescribed members of the beneficial ownership, the percentage of the beneficial ownership you have in that particular company, and the Registrar of Companies is the accountable person to collect this information. The company's amendment also went ahead to provide for offenses and the penalties in case the beneficial ownership defaults to provide us with this information. It went ahead and it's going to provide for regulations, I think, which are underway. We are already working on those particular regulations to operationalize the beneficial ownership provisions and the forms. So you can see the law is already in place and it has taken action. So Section 2 of the Companies Act was amended to include a beneficial owner, that being a natural person who has final ownership or control of a company, or a natural person on whose behalf a transaction is conducted in a company, and includes a natural person who exercises ultimate control over a company. This section is literally lifting the veil. For us, on the face of it, you can provide us with certain forms showing these are your members of the company. And even your S18 can indicate these are the members of the company. But in the day-to-day running of the business, there are people, we have to lift the corporate veil to see the people who are the real owners, the people who are the ultimate owners, those people who do the decision-making on the face of it, of this particular company. So these are the people we want to know, because they might do a cover-up and front other people to do certain activities that are not acceptable. And yet there are people, maybe, can I quote it as mafias, who are behind that particular company. So it's literally lifting the veil to see the ultimate owners of these particular companies. So the information entered on the register, it includes the names, the postal address, the national identification number, the date on which the beneficial owner was entered on the register, and any other information prescribed by the minister. So this basically, this form breaks down the real owners, the postal addresses, the national NIN, the NIN number, and the date on which the person was entered on the register. So I believe right now you know exactly who the beneficial owners are. But of course, a question will come up and say, what if I lie, I go ahead and become deceptive and say these are the owners and yet they are not? Remember, when they are doing investigations on this particular company, they will take those particular people, and those people are liable for any offenses that are committed by that particular company. But if you go ahead and be transparent and be accountable and you open up that these are our real owners, then on the face of it, we shall put it on our record that these are the owners. And in case of liability, the real owners are liable. So what are the administrative reforms we as URSB are undertaking to enforce the beneficial ownership mandate? The beneficial ownership issues guidelines on the role of URSB in the prevention of money laundering, terrorism financing, and other suspicious transactions, effective on the 26th August 2020. So you notice that this law has been in place. It has been in place since 2020, although it has been undercover. But now that there are regulations, now that there is a law that is abiding, we have to make sure that we enforce this law, because even the government is very keen. FATF is on the watch to see if Uganda under URSB is really effecting this mandate. So the guidelines put emphasis on eye-raising occurrences such as multiple registrations or high-value transactions within a short period of time and other concealing-related attitudes. This basically refers to companies that are incorporated within a short period of time, but having the same shareholding. We also have high-value transactions where a company is incorporated with a share capital of about 1 billion shillings. So those are suspicious transactions. We have to find out as URSB. We do due diligence. Who are the real owners of this company? Because of the high levels of share capital that is involved, we have to find out who are the ultimate owners of this company. In case a company under the same shareholding, they open up multiple, in the same week you've incorporated 2 companies under the same ownership or 3 companies under the same ownership, we dig deeper to find out why the incorporation within a short period of time. So we are on the watch to see why these other lucrative forms of operation for this kind of business. So instead of concealing that, we have to find out who are the real members. So we also under our mandate, what we are trying to do under our administrative reforms, we have to be mindful of the data correction forms and the platform for collection and easy retrieval of the information. So you notice that our clients, now that we issued that notice to file beneficial ownership forms, we are collecting those data forms. A client walks in free of charge with a triplicate of those forms of the beneficial owners. They walk in and hand it over to the receiving officers. 2 of those forms will be stamped. 3 of them will be stamped. 2 will be returned back to the client, and 1 will remain on our database to be put on our database, so that in case of any investigations, in case one wants to do a search, they can easily find out who the owners of the company are. So we are doing data collection. So staff are being trained to acquaint and equip officers with appropriate skills for the function. Of course, now time and again, we are being sensitized on how to handle those forms, on how to sensitize the public on the need to equip them so that they can file beneficial ownership. Appointment of a liaison officer to coordinate the implementation of the guidelines and coordination. You notice that the Registrar General is the accounting officer. So we've appointed a liaison officer to coordinate the implementation of the guidelines and coordination. In case the Financial Intelligence Authority wants us to effect certain changes on this form, we have a particular officer who will be approached so that the changes are effected. So there was an insertion of section 52. Sorry, before I go into the insertion, under the Partnership Amendment Act 21 of 2022, the law went ahead to effect that the beneficial ownership is also mandated and is also filed. So amendment to the definition section 1, where the definition of a beneficial ownership was introduced to mean a natural person or who ultimately owns or controls a partnership, or the natural person on whose behalf a transaction is conducted in the partnership, and includes a natural person who exercises ultimate control over partnership. So you notice we have what we call the limited liability partnership. So this refers to the limited liability partnership, where the liability of the partners is limited to a certain sum. So they have to also file a beneficial ownership form. And this is a form 1 that is limited and restricted to partnerships. So there was an insertion of section 52A in the Principal Act after the management of the limited liability partnership to provide for a register of beneficial owners. The information also includes the name, the postal address, the NIN, the date on which the beneficial owner was entered on the register, and the information as prescribed by the minister. And the register shall be kept at the registered office of the partnership, and any changes that are made shall be effected, and the registrar of companies shall be notified within 14 days. So you notice that this beneficial ownership is just a form which you can download on the internet from our website form, but I'm going to show you how the form looks like. And the form, of course, has the information where the person is situated, the NIN, the postal address. But before I show you the form, these are the fines, the penalty that will be issued to that person who fails to file the beneficial owners. The register shall be kept at the registered office of the company, and any changes that are made therein. The partnership will have an obligation to transmit the same to the register of companies within 14 days. A default on complying with these provisions, a company or any officer of the company who is in default will be held liable to a daily default fine of 25 currency points. So here it literally means that any day you evade to file the beneficial ownership form, a 25 currency point will be levied against you on each day. So all the members, you can imagine each member will be levied 25 currency points. So a currency point is equivalent to 20,000 shillings. So in case you fail to abide and file the beneficial ownership form, 20,000 will be levied on a daily on each officer. So, which is equivalent, so 25 currency points is equivalent to 500,000. So if you do your thematic, it will be equivalent to 500,000 on a daily. So the way forward, we look forward to working with FPC. We have development regulations to operationalize the provisions of the beneficial ownership, which will be gazetted once signed off by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. We also want to enhance the online business registration system to include the component of beneficial ownership to ensure that information in the company's registry is fully computerized and easily accessible. So this literally means that for now, our clients, it's a walk-in service. A client walks in with the form and hands it over to our receiving officer, and they are given back the copies that are stamped. But we are trying to enhance this to put this service online, where a client, in the convenience of their room or office, they can easily upload the register with this form after filling in it adequately. We are also doing a data cleanup on all existing entities to provide information on beneficial owners. And this data cleanup is what we are doing right now. Thus, the notice that we issued on 11th January 2023, that all companies should submit the beneficial ownership forms. We are also continuously engaging our stakeholders during the various media platforms on the importance of the beneficial ownership. The way we are doing it right now to engage our stakeholders and all you, our participants, to make sure that everybody is abreast with what beneficial ownership means and where to file these forms. So this is how the beneficial ownership form looks like. So it literally shows you the company name, the registration number of the company, the details of where the register is kept. This has to be really in detail of the place, the exact place. If need be, you can put a valid postal address to see where exactly the beneficial ownerships can be located in case there are any queries that arise. So the date on which the particular person, the beneficial owners, became the owners of the company, this information has to be filled in here. This is the provision of the date. Then the particulars of the beneficial owner, you have to fill in to avail us information with the full name of the beneficial owner, the passport, the NIN. In case, of course, they are foreign, they have to fill in the passport details, the nationality of the beneficial owner, the date of birth, the address, the postal address, the current email, the current phone number, and the occupation. Then the nature of the beneficial ownership or control. So here the beneficial owner will go ahead and highlight the nature of control. Remember, the beneficial owner is the person who has ultimate control in this particular company. So they will go ahead, because now a company limited by guarantee does not have shares. This person will go ahead and highlight which nature of control do you have? What is the percentage of your voting rights in this particular company? What powers do you have to appoint or to remove a majority of the board members? whether this person exercises significant influence or control in this company. So we need the nitty-gritties of the information from the beneficial owner to make us know that indeed this person has full control of this particular company. If it is a company limited by shares, there is a form for which highlights the percentages of what this beneficial owner owns in this particular company, and it will be later off signed off by the director or secretary. And this is the simple form that one has to fill in triplicate and submitted at our offices as a beneficial ownership form. So that is basically information to do with beneficial ownership. Sorry. So in other words, what we want is that clients, all our participants, all our stakeholders should abide by filing beneficial ownership forms because we are on the gray list. And what we are avoiding is to go on the red list. Uganda being highlighted because I will not mention certain countries which are already on the red list because they did not abide by what PAPATIF had insinuated to them. So for us as URSB, for us as Uganda as a whole, for us as URSB, which has the mandate to effect that mandate of filing beneficial owners, we want to make sure that we engage our stakeholders to file these forms so that we are not put on the gray list, on the red list, because it will affect all of us as Ugandans. It will not only affect URSB, but each individual will be affected in one way or the other, especially those who are traveling out of the country. If Uganda is put on the red list, of course, the repercussions, the consequences are dire for us as a country. And getting off the red list will really take much. So we'd rather arrest the situation now and observe whatever was directed to us so that we are put in their good books of accounts. So I think I welcome questions from our participants so that I can continue putting more insight on why they should file beneficial ownership. Back to you, Yona, or our moderator for the day.
Rachel, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for your presentation. We are now going to dive into the discussion. And during the discussion, we have some questions that have been directed to us as DPI, and Yona is going to present them to you. But also, it's time for the participants to talk to us. As we wait for Yona to present the questions, there's a question here. I'm inquiring, especially as URSB, if there is a form that shows one has submitted the beneficial ownership form.
Hilda, can I answer the questions as they come?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, I said a customer who wants to file a beneficial owner will walk into our offices with a triplicate with 3 copies of the beneficial ownership forms, which are duly filled in, and will hand them over to the receiving officer, who will appoint them to a registration officer, and they will stamp them and return back 2 copies to the customer or to the client, and we shall maintain 1 copy for our database. This one will be uploaded on the client's database so that in future, in case they want to find out who the real owners are, they can still come and make a search to find out the beneficial owners of that particular company. So that information will be uploaded on our system, on our database.
All right. Thank you. That was from an anonymous person. Albert.
All right. Thank
You're
you
allowed
so
to
much. Thank you so much, Chiro, and of course, Rachel, for the wonderful presentation. I, however, got in towards the end at around slide 8, but
Albert, we can't hear you.
so my question would be, I wanted to find out, because in Kabale here, where I operate from, that is LOSCO, we have an officer at the municipal council who receives information for your SB. So I went there with 2 copies, and then she received 1 copy. And of course, she did not stamp, neither did she sign on the other copy. And she said she was sending it to Mbarara, where the office is for filing. And I asked for the evidence in case someone approached our office to find out if we did the same. She said, no, it's fine. So Rachel, is this going to be different, or there is a possibility that some of your staff countrywide are not aware of this process? And then what would you advise us to do as we look into what you just shared too? I look at the spirit behind the fine that is levied on a failure to comply. What was the spirit behind this kind of figure? 500 per day per owner is quite ridiculous. Some people don't see this money in the whole year, and when you put it for a day, what was it? Is it some kind of intimidation, or is it because I don't think it's a support enhancement kind of procedure? Is it possible to have it amended, or are we sure this is applicable to all company owners? Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Albert, for those questions. Of course, it's very important. This shows that our clients are really, really, really engaged, and they know what's really happening on the ground. The mere fact that you're observant to see that you are handed over 1 form without any evidence of receipt shows that you're really, really able to notice that something was amiss. So here, what we are doing, of course, we are trying to sensitize our officers countrywide to make sure that they receive. And what we are doing right now, now that the beneficial ownership forms are being registered by registration officers who are not at those municipal offices, they have to transfer those forms to our head offices, maybe our regional offices like Mbarara, Gulu, Arua. But you notice that maybe she took your contact. In case they are registered, they will be calling and reaching out to those clients so that they can pick their copies. So you make sure that maybe you go back and avail your contact so that they can reach you to have your copy. So it was very, very important for you to leave your contact so that they can reach you afterwards. So maybe if you did not leave your contact, you can go back. So it is true that our officers are generating that information and keeping it and transferring it to our regional offices. On the second question, the spirit behind the penalties, the whole rationale is to make sure that clients are pushed to the wall. You know, as URSB, we are between a wall and a hard place. So we have to make sure that we do all kinds of sanctions to make sure that clients are really, really pushed to make sure that they file. Although those penalties have not yet started biting, but in case they start biting, it will be there. So it's important that all clients abide by what has been issued out in the notice and they file. Of course, sometimes it's a scarecrow, but if it bites, of course, it has bitten. So it's important that you file those beneficial ownership before we go into the penalties, the effecting of those penalties. But the spirit was to drive, because we are on the gray list, and this brings in dire consequences for the individual, for the Ugandan as a person and Uganda as a whole. it's a matter of national importance. That is why we make sure that everybody files these forms. And that is why they put up those really, really grave penalties. I think Albert have answered your question. Back to you, Hilda.
Sure. Albert, I hope that all your question has been answered properly. Get through this.
Hilda, you're off. We can't hear you.
Hilda, you're off.
All right. So we had someone called Ofono Leonard request that could we please have the slide shared with us in our emails? Rachel, would that be possible?
Yes, of course. I'm going to share it with Mr. Wanjala so that he can avail the slides to all of you so that you keep abreast with the information on beneficial ownership, the law that is abiding and the rationale behind the beneficial ownership. So I'm free to share so that people know why exactly they are filing beneficial ownership forms.
All right.
I'll share this.
Prudence is asking, can we submit the filled-in forms without the register, or you can avail the register?
I don't know what exactly she meant by register, but it is just a form. The form I showed you in my slides is the form you're supposed to submit at URSB. You do not attach anything. You only fill in that particular form in triplicate in 3 copies. 2 copies will be returned to you and 1 will be uploaded on our database. So there is no particular attachment and there is no fee that is levied on that particular form. It is absolutely free of charge.
Between BO, founders of the NGO.
Hilda, you're not very clear. Please pardon me.
Someone here is asking, is there a difference between the board and the founders of the NGO?
Yeah, that's what.
The board members, I presume.
Board members and founders.
Yeah.
Of course, there is a difference between the board and the founder members. The founder members are those members who are indicated on Form S18. When you're incorporating a company, we have what we call Form S18. That indicates who the members, who the subscribers of the companies are. And these members go ahead and present their IDs and even their small passport photos. So those members are the ones also who are indicated in the memorandum and articles, who are indicated in the books. So those are the founder members we take as the members. Sorry, there's some noise in the background. So those are the members who are indicated on Form S18 and the memorandum and articles. But these members can go ahead and appoint a board to run the day-to-day activities of the company. So you notice that sometimes the founder members are not absolutely the members of the company. In case there are people who have expertise and experience in running certain activities, these founder members can identify them and bring them on the board so that they can give them that particular expertise. So it is not always true that the founder members are the board members. For us as URSB, what we want are the real ultimate members. If they are the ones who are indicated in the memorandum and articles, well and good. But behind these founding members, if there are other members who are not in the memorandum of articles, then those are the ones we want on the beneficial ownership forms. Thank you.
I would like to ask
please proceed with your question.
Yes. for instance, okay, the first question you've already answered. So once we have filed the beneficial owners, whatever list, do we do it again and again on a regular basis, say yearly or at what intervals? And then my second question is, our NGO got incorporated in 2000. Since then, the founder members, some have died, some are no longer associated with the NGO, and it's been running by the board. So what do we do in that case? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gertrude. Rachel, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Gertrude. You asked a question on the changes. In case, do you have to file every year? No, you do not have to file every year a beneficial ownership form unless there are changes that are being made, unless there are people you're adopting as new members, as ultimate members. That is when you're mandated, you're required to file an update of the register. That means you file another beneficial ownership form to of course, update your database to show that we have admitted new members who are the real owners. But in case there are no additions or in case there are no new members who are admitted, then the first one will take root. It will be well filed and therefore it will be enough. You don't need to file any other form. The second question is about members who have died. And right now the organization is being run by the board. And of course, if members have died, there is a procedure of replacing those members. Of course, through letters of administration, the member can decide, the deceased member can decide, maybe a person who is deceased and owns, and maybe the legal representative has letters of administration. The board can decide to appoint the legal representative as a member. But in case you did not go through that process of transmission or appointing a legal representative to replace the deceased, then you have to make sure that you go through that process because they are owners of the company who are not at the same time the board members. For us, what we want to know, if there is a deceased person, who replaced that deceased through the legal representative? That is exactly what we want to know, not the board members who are not the members, the actual members of the company. I guess I've answered, huh?
Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Sam Muchunguzi, over to you.
Thank you. Mine is basically one that there was need for us to have a clear definition of who is a beneficial owner, that is standardized definition that is accepted so that we can have, we can avoid questions of who is owning what or who is the owner or the percentage. So there should be a definition that is clearly stated by URSB. And two, NGOs that were renewing their permits and contract and certificates, one of the requirements was submit beneficial owners. Do they go ahead and register again, or you can harmonize and get that information from NGO Bureau? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I believe maybe he missed out on my PowerPoint presentation where I defined. It is not URSB that is defining the beneficial ownership. It is the company's amendment that is providing that, that definition. It's now embedded in the law and it's not defined by any institution. It's not defined by an individual. It's embedded in the law, and the law, the company's amendment, provides that a beneficial owner is the person, is that natural person who has ultimate control, who has the final control in that particular company. So that is the standardized definition of the beneficial owner. There is no other definition that is outside the law. So in case one knows that there are individuals who are the real owners behind those who are in the memorandum and S18, who are on the face of it, those we know as registrar, the registrar of companies, but there are some who are behind who do not want to come out and say, I'm the owner. They can be indicated on this form. So it is already rationalized and standardized that there is a definition. I'll share the presentation so that you can see the definition of that beneficial ownership.
All right. Sam, I hope your question has been answered. Yona, kindly take on the floor with your questions.
Thank you, Rachel, for those insights. Those still, I think, we need a lot of engagement to cover several concerns and questions members have. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Maybe you would note them down because of I want to avoid internet interruption. The first question is the beneficial ownership application form, or sorry, registration form or compliance form eligible for community-based organization? That's how the question has just come in, rightly asked, though poorly phrased, but I think the object and subjects have been communicated. The other is, are international or foreign NGOs required to file beneficial ownership forms? Please clarify. This has been a concern because some of the NGOs, when they come to URSB, when they come to URSB, they are informed that they are not supposed to file this form. But when they go to the NGO Bureau, the NGO Bureau sends them again back to URSB. Please clarify on this. The other is, do all board members qualify to be part of the form, or do we put some who are key and leave others? Then the lastly is, if beneficial owner definition basically looks at people who are ultimate controllers of that institution, organization, or company, what happens to network organization where the AGM is the supreme body? Do they have to file? Do they have to include all the members who constitute the AGM? And is this feasible for bigger networks that have over 150 members or 200? Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Yona. Of course, there are a couple of questions, and I think we shall need constant engagement so that our participants are really abreast with the new developments. But if I'm to delve
Actually,
into
Rachel, before you come in, my final question on this is, what are your outreach plans in line with these regulations? Because you highlighted sanctions, and sanctions are not a solution to compliance. They are a contributor, but they're really not key solutions. I feel maybe awareness would be a solution, a better solution. So what are your outreach plans as URSB? Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, I'll take on each question in order of priority. So are these forms also eligible for CBOs? CBOs are basically community-based organizations. These are not registrable at URSB. They are registered at the community centers. So anything that is outside the ambit of the mandate to register, that one is not allowed to submit beneficial owners. So only companies that are registered with URSB or that are already registered with URSB, companies that are body corporate, legal persons. Of course, if I'm to go back to the definition section of what a company is a legal person that is able to sue or it can be sued. So in case it is a legal person that is registered at URSB, then it is supposed to file a beneficial ownership form. CBOs are not mandated to file beneficial ownership form because they are not legal persons. That is why we brought in this perspective of the partnership, because partnership have a category of limited liability partnership, and they are also considered to be body corporate. They also have legal personality. That is why they are also mandated to file Form 1 of the beneficial owners. So the CBOs are not mandated to file the beneficial ownership forms. It's only companies that are already registered or that are newly being registered that are supposed to file the beneficial ownership forms. So what happens to international or foreign NGOs? Are they required to file the beneficial ownership forms? Of course, these entities are also corporate persons. They are supposed to file beneficial ownership forms. But you notice that lately, if it is an international NGO, we do not register it at Uganda Registration Services Bureau. We automatically send you to the NGO Bureau to be registered because they are the ones who have the mandate to register. We do not have the mandate to register international NGOs. But those that are already on our database, they are supposed to avail us with beneficial ownership forms. It's a requirement for all body corporates to file beneficial ownership forms. The other question was about do all board members qualify to be on the form? If board members are the ones who have ultimate control, if they are the ones who have the final control in this particular company, if they are the sole decision makers, then they are the ones we want to see on the beneficial ownership forms. But if they are just engaged in the day-to-day running and they are not the members of the company, then they are not required, they are not mandated to be indicated on the beneficial ownership forms. So what happens to the network where the AGM is the supreme members in case there are 150 members? Yes, it is true. In case, even if there are 1,000 members, the forms can still be enlarged to accommodate all those members so that the information is available to us as URSB, that these are the final members. In case there are 1,000 members, the form can still be enlarged to accommodate all those members in case they have the ultimate control, in case they are the final owners of this company, in case no decision can be made until they are contacted, then these are the members we want to be reflected on the beneficial ownership form. So what plans do we have to reach out to our clientele, to reach out to our stakeholders on this new development? Of course, through our PRs, through our public relations, we are planning to do media campaigns. We are trying to engage in case you know of any platforms like these where we can be invited to make a presentation on beneficial ownership. We are duly excited to sensitize and inform all our customers, all our stakeholders of this new development before the sanctions bite. So we are planning to do business clinics. We are planning to do sensitization drives so that everybody is not left behind on this new development, because it doesn't benefit us as URSB, but everybody is concerned. Everybody will be able to know that beneficial ownership are resourceful and are important to us as individuals, as a country, and also as stakeholders. Thank you. Back to you, Yona.
Thank you, Rachel. Daniel is asking, he says Kalangala District Forum of People Living with HIV/AIDS Network registration was declined by URSB on grounds they are not registering networks, but they are registered by the NGO board. What advice do you give us of benefit of registration? Rachel?
Hilda, you somehow broke. I didn't hear the question.
I broke?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel has asked, he says Kalangala District Forum of People Living with HIV/AIDS Network registration was declined by URSB on notes networks. They are registered by the board.
I do not know exactly the grounds on which the name was rejected, but of course, when we are registering these names, we look at the desirability test. We look at the fact that does this name pass the test? We do not, indeed it's true, we do not register networks, we don't register platforms, we don't register alliances. So all those names which fall within the category of platforms, forums, networks, those are not registered. We normally send you, for example, alliances, we send you to the Electoral Commission, and networks, of course, I do not know which perspective they use the word network and which reason the reservation officer gave, but indeed, networks are not registered. But you were supposed to modify the name to qualify it maybe, and apart from using network, you could use another name. For example, you could use an association, you could use an organization, you could use an initiative, because an initiative is of course mandated to help vulnerable people in the community, like those ones who are stricken by HIV. So you are supposed to substitute it with another word so that it can be reserved, and later subsequently you register that particular company. So going to the NGO bureau was not the solution, but it was basically you omitting the word network and substituting it for another name so that the name can be duly reserved and registered. Thank you.
Okay, so do they still need to register with beneficial ownership?
Yes, all NGOs, all companies limited by guarantee are supposed to register beneficial ownership forms. Actually, lately, all new companies, you notice that now our incorporation is now all online, all digital. Incorporation is done on our online services. No registration can be done unless you have attached a beneficial ownership form. So you notice all companies, either limited by guarantee or limited by shares, are being rejected if you've not attached a beneficial ownership. So yes, they are supposed to file it.
Right. Thank you. Edward is asking, when does the fine start, or has it already started?
Of course, for now, it hasn't yet started. It's a scarecrow to invite all our stakeholders, to push everybody to file, but it is soon going to be implemented. So it's better done now than regretting later. It has not yet started, but it's soon starting.
All right. Bira is asking, does it mean this process is continuous or there is a deadline to it?
You notice that the notice that was sent out in the media indicated 30 days. So make sure that you file within these 30 days, because I do not know whether there will be another grace period that will be provided. So it's better you avail us with this information within this time frame so that we upload and update your database before the fine sanctions are effected.
All right. Jaffa is asking, is the registration manually or does it have an online option? If so, how does it work? Hello, Rachel, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. I've heard your question. For now, our registration is now physical. It's a walk-in service. A client walks in with the forms. It is not yet updated online, but we are soon updating it so that you do not walk to wherever our offices are. So for now, it's still a physical submission. It is not yet uploaded to be filed online. We do not have that service yet integrated in our online service.
All right, thank you. Zipporah says, thank you, Rachel. For cases of expiring beneficial owners, shall we be using the same forms to renew? Then what about Form 20, which initially was for notifying the registrar on the new board member? Thank you.
The beneficial ownership does not expire at all. It does not expire. unless you have admitted new members. That it is just making an update of the information. It does not expire. And Form 20 is not for the board members. Form 20 is for the directors. The directors can be different from the members. So Form 20 has no connection at all with the beneficial ownership form. But the beneficial ownership is for the real members. If there are members who are in the memorandum of articles, well and good, indicate them on the beneficial ownership form. The Form 20 is for only appointing directors, but not the members. If the directors are the same people as the members, then well and good. If your information can tally from the members to the directors to the beneficial ownership, no problem. But if it does not tally, then you're supposed to update your register of the beneficial ownership members appropriately. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Some of the questions have been answered. Zipporah, you're allowed to talk.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I would like to recommend that once this is finalized, then maybe you can publish a list on your website or somewhere, and we know that we are cleared. Because before we would get issues, you come and update, and then you still have issues. So kindly, if you can maybe publish a list. Thank you.
Thank you, Zipporah. Bira says URB has a very thin presence, and the entire Bunyoro has no offices for URSB, and this means that this is a costly process. This costly process must be done from Kampala. In future, improvise online as well as an option. Thank you. I hope Rachel has taken that into consideration, and she's told us that soon it will be online. It's to be an online service. Yes, please.
Yes, just to comment on those two questions. Yes, I think as time progresses, we are going to develop a register of those who have abided with the notice. Yes, we are going to bring in all those reforms to make sure that people are updated with the information they've uploaded. I remember there is a time we published a list of those who are defaulting payment of annual returns, and people came running and they managed to update their annual returns status. But for now, I think we are going to develop a mechanism of publishing those who have updated the register or filing the BO forms. About my sister who is asking about Bunyoro, we have a new office at Hoima office, where a registration officer is sitting and other officials of URSB. So from Bunyoro, I think you can easily access our Hoima offices that have been newly established, and there you can access our services. You don't have to come to Kampala or to go to any other further office. Our offices are now established in Bunyoro, in our Hoima offices, in the Albertine region.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich and Yona and team. There are some organizations that had never incorporated at URSB, and when they visit to submit their forms, they are sent aware that URSB is receiving forms from those who registered with them. Can URSB please receive their beneficial owners' information?
That's a very interesting question, but I had earlier mentioned that URSB is only receiving beneficial ownership forms of entities that are already incorporated. So if you're not incorporated, if you're not on our database, then how do we receive your form? An entity that is incorporated is the one which has legal person. In case a company is not incorporated, it does not have legal personality. So it is true, we are only receiving companies that are on our database. If your company is not registered, then we have no business with you. It is just a relationship that has been created, and therefore you have a file with us, which will be updated. In case of any changes, that same information will be uploaded on our database. So you have to first be registered, incorporated as a body corporate, and thereafter, we shall receive your information and upload it on your register.
All right, thank you. Someone from Last Hope Refugee Association is asking, can refugee company be in this program, beneficial owners, because we know we have companies owned by refugees?
This beneficial ownership does not discriminate any kind of company, and we do not go into the details of which kind of people own it, whether they are refugees, whether they are people of HIV. It does not discriminate. Provided you're on our register as a company limited by guarantee, you're obliged to file beneficial ownership forms. So in case that refugee company is registered as a guarantee, let them go ahead and file a beneficial ownership form.
Suppose a company has 3 directors, and now we want to add the 4th. Is this possible? What about if you want to drop a director?
If a company wants to appoint another director, they pass what we call a resolution appointing a new director, and attach a Form 20. A Form 20 is a form that appoints the directors, but they must show that they resolved to appoint these directors through a meeting. A meeting must have a date and the venue where the meeting was held. And those two, the resolution and the Form 20, will be availed at URSB for registration. And thereafter, you would have appointed your directors. In case you want to drop a director, it is also done through a meeting, a sitting of a meeting. It can be an ordinary meeting where the members will resolve that indeed they are seizing this particular person from being a director. But for due diligence purposes, these days, we want the directors to sign the resolution seizing them to be directors, because you notice that some members just seize certain directors so that they can maybe carry out certain lucrative, certain fraudulent acts, because this director has been a signatory to a particular bank account, and this director is being objective. So they want to drop this director without them knowing, and they go ahead and do what? Carry out that particular fraudulent transaction. We normally want every director who is being seized for due diligence to sign so that they seize them peacefully, amicably, so that the transactions of the company can be carried on amicably without any person being offended. Back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Paul says, I need clarity on what to put on the second page of the form where there is a percentage of shares.
Please ignore the percentage of the shares unless it's a company limited by guarantee with share capital. You notice we have companies that are limited by guarantee with share capital. If they have shares, then you will indicate the shares. If they do not have, you can ignore it and just indicate other details of the beneficial owner.
All right, thank you. Marlon Agaba, you've raised up your hand. Kindly unmute and speak.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hilda, and everyone joining in. But my question is that what if the NGO is registered or company, but has been dormant, let's say like for 5 years, it suffered a stillbirth. It didn't really do anything. You register, and there are so many of them, but you fail to take off. Does it still have the obligation to file the beneficial ownership form? Thank you.
In case that particular company suffered what you referred to as a stillbirth, and that for us as URSB, it automatically means that you've not been filing annual returns and punishing a registrar of companies with the status quo of your company, yes, you can still file that beneficial ownership. We have not yet tagged filing beneficial ownership forms with filing annual returns. For now, you can still file it even when your company is not updated. But in case you want to file a resolution appointing board directors, in case you want to file a resolution opening up a bank account, you'll be mandated to file annual returns. But for now, you're free to file beneficial owners before you update your company with annual returns.
Thank you, Rachel. The questions for now are done, and I don't see any hands up. We're giving the floor at the moment. Let me take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Peter Magela, the Executive Director of DENIVA, to give us some highlights on some of the identified areas of concern on the requirements to submit beneficial owners information by NGOs. Peter, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rita. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Rachel, Yona, Stephen Okello, for coming to have this, and all the participants who have participated. Actually, a lot of things I had prepared, I noticed they were addressed in the questions. Most of the things I had prepared had to do with the practical challenges that a number of people have faced. But highlight one of the major challenges is that the forms that we have were mainly designed with the companies with shares in mind. And many companies limited by guarantee are membership companies as opposed to shares. So colleagues, you'll find parts where they are asking you to indicate the amount of shareholding, but if you're a company limited by guarantee, that would be might be the voting rights that you have. And from experience, normally you have, most companies are one person, one vote. So that has been a challenge, but it's something you need to consider. Also, I'm glad that I think yesterday URSB removed the old forms. They were old forms we've been using for like 2-3 years now, which were made under the Anti-Money Laundering Act. And so when URSB sent out a notice and said you get the forms on our website, the forms that were on their website were the forms made under the Anti-Money Laundering Act, as opposed to the forms made under the Amended Companies Act and regulations. So I'm glad now, yesterday I noticed they changed the forms, and so now you can go straight to the website and pick those forms. They are the ones in the regulations. Also, people have a challenge. The ones on the website give an option to type, but you don't have an option to expand them. So we've been advising people to just get the same form, turn it into Word, you can type or print it and then be able to send. Another challenge I've found, let me just try to put the form up. Okay, I don't know, I will need some capacity on how to project the form. But when you look at the form, and this is what has been the challenge between the forms which have been online and the forms that we are having right now. The forms which were online, you'd fill one form, one person. The forms we are having right now seem to suggest that you can put several people on the form. Just hold a moment. It's a power. It's not. Just hold on. I want to project the form so that you can see it. This one. Okay, I think for the interest of time, I will just explain from probably you'll be able to understand. I'm unable to project the regulations and the forms where they are. But when you look at the form that's on the, that is provided, somewhere it seems to suggest like you'll feel one person. Particulars, for example, here it talks about particulars of a beneficial owner. I forget the name of beneficial owner. It seems to suggest like it's targeting one person, but when you look at the table has several people you can put. So I think you can use that to have many beneficial owners on one form, unless Rachel directs otherwise. There was also a question about whether we need the beneficial owners. And when you read the regulations, you actually need a beneficial owners register. And if you look at the form, the first part A says the register of beneficial owners of the company is kept at -- where you need to put the address where you're keeping that register. So ideally, the law is expecting you to first create a register and then inform the registrar of companies of the existence of that register. And the regulations, we don't have time, but the regulations have a whole detail on how you can create that register. There are also registers which are available for sale. So you just need to note that. The challenges we've had with the register of companies receiving these documents, Rachel, majority of the people who have filed these documents, the registrars, especially up-country, have refused to acknowledge receipt. And as you know from the practice of law, it's very, very difficult for me to submit documents to a government entity, and the government entity does not accept my documents. My only proof that I submitted documents to that entity is the receipt, which is either stamp or a signature showing they have received. So that is a challenge. I think URSB needs to engage the registers and really tell them to receive these documents. What they are doing is you just dump the document and they say, okay, we shall talk to you. But you never know if those forms will get lost or not. It becomes very hard for people to follow up. Listening through the discussions, I notice, and this I understand, it might be a challenge to anyone, whether you are a registrar of companies or someone who works with NGOs. The challenge is NGOs have slightly different structures from companies limited by shares. For example, there are NGOs with a patron who might be one person who makes all the decision, despite the fact that there is a board and there is an AGM. So in that case, the patron you might find the patron is the beneficial owner. Sometimes you find that patron is made up of a board of like 4 people, but then there is a board and there are all these things. Then others have like a board of trustees, but they are not trustees under the trustees incorporation. They are companies, but they still create a board of trustees, which is an entity above sometimes the AGM, above the board. And so that would be like a beneficial owners. So it's a bit hard to have a one-size-fits-all in terms of deciding or describing to NGOs who your beneficial owners might be if you are a particular NGO. It is dependent on individual NGO, depending on their structure. What is important is who is that person or a group of persons who make the final decision. Now, when I look at a question, for example, a question Yona asked is NGOs which are made of many members. Of course, Rachel will tell you they don't register networks. But what actually she's meaning is they do not register entities with the word network in the name, but you can have networks. For example, NGO Forum and Deniva are companies, but in NGO language, they are known as networks. I had Kalangala NGO something. It is also likely to be a network, which is incorporated as a company. Now, in that case, you find the members are entities, not individuals. The members are another NGO, another company limited by guarantee is the member of that. But when you look at the definition of beneficial owners, they are looking at the individual person. Now that leads us to two situations we are having in the law. When you read strictly the definition, the amendments to the Companies Act, you'll find the Companies Act envisages a situation where there can be a company without beneficial owners. That is something we might need to debate, but when you read the company, because the wording is that a company with beneficial owners shall file this, meaning there is a company that might not have beneficial owners. But then it is also possible that that kind of networks do not have beneficial owners. Or it's possible that they have beneficial owners, but the beneficial owners are not the members of those companies, but particular individuals. You might need to look backwards into your structure. Who are those individuals on whose shoulders the final decisions lie? And so those individuals are the beneficial owners. Those individuals could be people you filed on company form 20 for your board of directors, people who are in your memorandum and articles, or they may not surface in any of those two documents. They might be just there, they make the final decisions, but you had never filed them. So you need to put that. Then the last concern which keeps coming is how often do you file this? You file every time there is a change in beneficial ownership. Rachel hinted on the change. Somehow she said you are not expected to change your beneficial owners, but if you do, you should feel there's a form, I think it's a beneficial owners regulation form 2. So form 2 is notice of change of particulars of beneficial owners. So if you change, let me say Peter was a beneficial owner and for some reason he has moved, there is a notice you can give the register of companies, and that notice is given within 14 days from the change. In NGO language, let me say, if your board is the beneficial owner, the board of directors, and today you have an AGM and you elect new members. So you have Peter and Stephen replaced by Rachel and Yona. And those ones now become the alternate decision makers. So if they become the alternate decision makers, they become beneficial owners, which means you'll file a notice of change of beneficial owners to the register of companies to reflect this change on top of other notices you are likely to be filing. Because here I've said, I give an example that these are on the board. So you've changed the board, which means you'll again have to file a resolution making that change and form 20. Those are not for today's discussion. Today is just focused on beneficial ownership. But going forward, we'll need a lot of awareness on many other forms that you have to deal with under company registry. The physical filing has been addressed, but probably we need to see how better we can do it. And my last is, I don't know if Rachel has capacity to answer this, but the biggest concern is the time given.
They wanted the whole one because they don't know the time.
Now,
we didn't tell them to come and check.
Because we just
check if they can get the good ones, tell the mechanic to come.
And many people were concerned that it's getting late. Sorry. Okay, there are people who are hearing this for the first time, and so they might need some more time to do the filing. I don't know if Rachel can give us an answer, but it's something we might need to consider moving forward. I want to stop here for the interest in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Hilda, you're breaking. We are not hearing you.
We are
Hilda, you're breaking.
Just a quick one. Did you require Rachel to respond to something before we conclude? Peter.
Hello? Rachel, I think Peter raised some of the questions. I think one of the key that is outstanding is that there is a lot of outreach that is required to be done in terms of awareness creation. Is there any room for extension? It might not be for you to respond to this, but maybe you can escalate it. Let's hear from you on this.
Thank you, Yona. Thank you, Peter. My observation from this, especially from Peter's submission, is that he's really abreast with the recent developments. And what we are trying to do is to train trainers, because right now, after this discussion, I noticed that Peter can really make an able discussion to other stakeholders to inform them about the recent developments of beneficial owners. So I just want to encourage other stakeholders who have had this information to spread it out to other people. But more so, as earlier mentioned, I want to emphasize that we are going to start on sensitization drives through our public relations and sensitize, make awareness of the new developments before the sanctions start biting. The commenting on the time frame, of course, the notice that was issued was within 1 month, that every company is obliged to file the beneficial ownership within 1 month. But a grace period will be extended, that I know, the way we've been doing with annual returns. But when that grace period expires, we know that the sanctions will bite because this is a matter of national importance. The grace period might not be extended for that long. If it is 1 month, it might be extended for another 1 month. But I'm going to advocate that since people are really getting acquainted to this new issue of beneficial ownership, people are still raw and they do not know about it. We are going to advocate for more time, a specific time of about 3 months, so that everybody is able to update their register with the beneficial ownership. And he mentioned a few things which I'm going to really bring to the attention of the management. For example, acknowledgement of those beneficial ownership for our regional offices, and also the notices in change and the time of filing. So these are questions that are really tagged to management to decide, and I'm going to pass on this information. And I believe I'll get back to you through Yona or through any liaison officer that you would have appointed. I think those are my brief comments about Yona's submissions, about Peter's submissions. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Rachel, for giving us your time to make explanation this much. And thank you, Peter, for highlighting some of the key concerns about the beneficial ownership form. I'd like also to take the same opportunity to thank our partners online, Deneva, Quam, NGO Bureau, URSB, and Defenders Protection Initiative team. Most important are those participants who have come to participate voluntarily without even getting what I would call data compensation. Thank you for taking time to get these insights. Special thanks to our father institution and or mother institution, the NGO Bureau, also the executive director, who officially opened our function. I'm glad to inform you that, again, complementing the efforts on awareness creation in line with talking to your regulator, we are going to have regional Talk to Your Regulator clinics in the traditional regions. Traditional regions that I mean Ankole, Bunyoro, Bukedi, Lango, all over the country. And we shall be contacting again Rachel to give us some of their officers within those regions to create awareness on this topic in particular, and also on all elements of URSB registration and the NGO sector. This is going to begin in March, and it will crown up with what I would call Talk to the Regulator Summit that is going to be in August. So please, members who might have missed, we are going to have yet again another physical engagement in the respective regions as funds permit to the numbers that we shall be inviting for these particular engagements. Ladies and gentlemen, let me end it up here, and I thank you once again for participating in this forum or space. We shall invite you for our next engagement, which is next month virtual, but also for those whom we are going to actually have regional physical clinics with in line with Talk to Your Regulator. Without wasting a lot of your time and having participated for all these 2 hours, I declare the engagement closed. Maybe for administrative reasons, we shall be able to share the PowerPoints and any necessary data that we shall be availed to and that we have in our dockets with all the participants. Over to you, Hilda. I don't know if there is room for taking a photo.
No, this time there's no room for taking a photo. But just one last question that has come in. Do companies that use the previous forms change the new ones? I think this is over to Rachel.
Hilda, I think your network has developed issues. I didn't hear that question.
Hello?
Yes. Repeat the question, please.
Do companies, it's in the Q&A, do companies that use the previous forms, do companies that use the previous forms change to the new ones? Can you hear me, Rachel?
Yes, I've heard the question. The companies that use the previous forms, yes, they are free to update their register with the new forms, because of course the new forms are the ones which are acceptable. The old ones are not, so they can update. In case they filed with the old ones, they can still update. For us, when we are scanning the information on our database, we shall sort and of course scan the formalized form that is acceptable by URSB. So it's better they update and file us with the new form that is acceptable with URSB, the updated format.
All right.
Over to you, Hilda.
Thank you very Thank you